This is a remote control car, which I upgraded to be controlled by an Arduino. It uses an Arduino Pro Mini 5V as the controller, and then it also has a separate motor controller to control the front and the rear motors. And you can see these gadgets on the front. This is a HCSR04 distance sensor, and I haven't got this fully functional just yet, but what it's going to do in the future, and probably a different video, is it will sense a distance and make it so the car will avoid being crashed. This device that you see here is a transceiver. It's an NRF24 module, and I'm using two of these in the project, one for the car and one for the controller, which I'll again show you here in just a minute. As you look in the car, you'll see that I'm using an L298N motor controller board, and you can't see it too well probably with the lighting. These switches here on top, one controls the Arduino, the other controls the board, but you can kind of see in there with that light perhaps. And what I did is I just Dremeled it out, and that allowed me to make enough space for the wiring and for the motor controller. Okay, turn those off. I'm using two 7.4V LiPo batteries that are attached here to the rear of the car. One controls the motors, the other one controls the board, and they're interchangeable, same batteries. Okay, so let's open up the bottom here, and you could see what I did, kind of. So what I used to have in here is this guy, a NiCad battery. I'm probably never going to use this again. So what you're seeing here is up here underneath these wires, and I don't want to move these because I have these all in place. I don't want anything to become unhooked. Underneath here is the Pro Mini. It's this top area right here. And then what I did was I soldered a board for my voltage regulator. One is a 3.3V voltage regulator, which I'm using this rail for, these terminals, and then on this side of the board I'm using 5V. And I added so many terminals just for, you know, if I ever want to upgrade the car, then I can do that. I'm only using 3.3V just for the NRF24 module because it needs to run on 3.3V. Everything else is run by 5V. And so right here I have my ground and then my input voltage. Under here you'll see I have a voltage regulator. That's my 5V regulator. Then under here where you see this capacitor, that's a 3.3V regulator to power this rail. Okay, so that's about it as far as the car goes. Now, as a side note, if you would like to build this project yourself, I built this one from a course that I found on Udemy, which is taught by Dr. Peter Dalmaras. I've taken quite a few courses from. He's very knowledgeable with the Arduino and Raspberry Pi and such. I recommend that if you're into this sort of thing, that you check him out. Okay, let's go ahead and check out the controller. So this here is what I'm using to control the remote control car. This is just a regular Wii Nunchuk. It's a knockoff. I bought it for, I think, $3.99 on eBay, very cheap. And I'll just kind of go down the line here. This here is a Wii Nunchuk device. It has 4 pins, and it's run with the I2C interface. So there's 4 wires all together, 2 for power, 2 for I2C. So then down the line further, it attaches to this Pro Mini device. This here is actually going to be upgraded here soon. It's a 168, which I wasn't aware of when I purchased it. So I'm going to be upgrading it soon with this 328, 8 Atmega 328 device. Anyways, that's beside the point. What I did was I just soldered the wires directly onto the board. That I figured would just help me save some room from having to use a breadboard and such. And plus I figure this project I want to ultimately be permanent. So So that's what I did. So this is a 3.3 volt. As I mentioned before, the Wii Nunchuk is run by 3.3 volts, and the other transceiver module for the NRF24 is also 3.3 volts, as I showed you in the car. So that's all we need here for 3.3 volts. I mean, as far as power goes, 3.3 volts. And this battery here is a 3.7 volt LiPo battery, 850 milliamps. I'll show you what I'm going to put this in. Now, I got this weatherproof box. It's a little bit overkill because it's weatherproof. I mean, the car itself isn't weatherproof. So I got this, and basically I'm just going to put that Arduino in here, and then it's going to make it a little bit, more appealing, so I'm not dragging these wires all over the place and where they're susceptible to being unplugged and what have you. So I just dremeled out a little slot here for the wires, and that's probably going to be, if I ever make another video for the car, that's going to be upgraded, and it's going to have this board as well. Okay, so enough said about that. Let's go ahead and take a look and see how the car drives, and play with it for a little bit. Here's the controller that I showed you before, and I already have the battery plugged in. You'll see the wires connected there, the lights are on, and it's good to go. Now for the car, all I have to do is flip these two switches. The one on the left, this one here, is for the motor, and this one here is for the Arduino. Let's go ahead and see how it drives.